What's going on, guys? Hopefully, I'm coming through loud and clear here. I wanted to make a quick video today and just do it live because I wanted to interact with you guys and start hearing a little bit more about your thoughts on what's going on with the AI world. But I'm about a month into really diving deep into the AI world, and I have a few thoughts that are becoming clear to me now after I have sort of gone through the initial shock, factor of it and all the intense, just overwhelming fears and the intensity of how powerful the technology is and the sort of implications of where it's going to lead us in the future. It was a pretty rough couple of weeks trying to wrap my head around what's going on here because I really felt like I was playing catch up. I just didn't follow this at all until really about a month and a half ago. But now getting a little bit of some, distance between initially learning about where we are with AI, especially with music, AI generated music models. I think I'm starting to get a little bit more of a bird's eye view on where we are with this technology and basically what it means for us as sync licensing producers. So the good news is I feel a lot more calm, a lot more in control, and definitely I feel a lot more empowered that there are certainly things, at least trends that I'm starting to notice that I think, we will be disrupted for sure. That still holds true. I think, anybody who's saying that AI music will never be something that we have to compete with or wrap our heads around or figure out how do we adjust our strategy, I don't buy that at all. I really do think it will make an impact in our industry. How, that obviously remains to be seen, but I do feel that there are things that we can do, like starting now this year, to sort of AI proof our production music and basically stay a little bit ahead of where these AI models are so that we can actually become more relevant in the future. So it's a dual-edged sword. I do see some producers giving up. I do see a large number of producers probably, unfortunately, giving up or feeling like it's not worth it, or they just are realizing that their skill set just isn't able to keep up with maybe where some of these AI models are going to be able to go in the next couple of years. So that's not a fun part of this. That's going to be the part that's really heartbreaking, essentially, since I know that I'm going to receive a lot of those emails from some of you that are just giving in and just saying, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I just can't compete with these models. I got to go find something else to do with my time. And I understand that. And it's just, it sucks, but it is what it is. So I totally get where some of you guys are going to be going with that. But the other positive side of this story, I feel, is that because many producers will be bailing out, I think those of you guys that can sort of level up your productions, right? Add more human elements to your tracks, which will require a lot more live recorded stuff. And we're going to talk about that. And I'm definitely starting to put together a plan for some new content, new tutorials, Sync Academy tutorials for sure, on how we can specifically start to update our production methods using a lot of AI tools, ironically, but definitely starting to kind of rediscover what it means to create music and what is it that makes a track uniquely human and make it sound like it came from a human being, because that's the value I think that will be increased in our industry. And I think for those of you that can sort of get yourself into that position where you're making more human, believable, realistic sounding music, not robotic sounding music, not AI sounding music, I think you're going to see a lot of amazing opportunities in front of you. And maybe with a lot of producers bailing out, you'll have fewer competitors. Essentially, there might be fewer producers and composers that you would have to compete with for those really high quality, hopefully lucrative opportunities in front of us. So that's what I see coming down the pipeline in the next 2 to 5 years. What happens after 5 years? When are these AI models going to be so good that they're making just as good music as the best producer or composer on earth? I have no idea. I've listened to so many different experts on this topic and they all disagree. So nobody really knows what's going on and where we're going to be in a couple of years. So I don't buy anybody who's saying they're convinced that it'll never happen, or it's 10 years away, or it's at the end of this year it's going to happen. I just have, I've listened to enough experts and I've read enough articles, watched enough videos, and it's very clear to me that nobody really knows. Nobody really knows what's going on. And so we basically, our best bet at this point is to just sort of follow this topic, keep our finger on it, understand what's happening, where is this technology headed, what is it capable of now, try to predict in the next, year or two, where can it potentially go, and then where can we sort of adjust if we need to, if we can, right? So I think that's really where my focus on this topic is going to go on my channel. It's not necessarily just going to be on every single AI story that comes out. I know I was talking about kind of like the AI voices and, what's happening with Spotify and that stuff. I personally will be following it, but I don't think that really is the focus I should be going in with this channel with Sync My Music. I really want to stick, really focus on sync licensing and how AI really is going to affect us and what we need to do to empower ourselves. So essentially what I see is in the last month, I really sort of wrapped my head, I'm definitely not an expert, but I've got enough of an understanding of what's going on in this world. And I feel now that there are certainly things that we can do to adjust our strategy. And I'm starting to come up with some specific sort of suggestions and tutorials and tools that I can point you guys in the direction of that can certainly keep you ahead of this trend of where it's going to go. Okay, so that's the good news. I feel like it's going to be a really, really empowering, really interesting year ahead, especially here on the channel and what we're going to be doing in Sync Academy moving forward. But it's going to require that I update my own thinking, because a lot of the strategy and the advice that I've been giving you guys for the last 6 years, a lot of it has to be updated. I have to kind of rethink what I've been telling you guys. Oh yeah, this is the way that always works, and you're going to increase your chances of success by doing this and this and this. Some of it will hold true, but a lot of it, I'm realizing as I look back on some of my older videos, like from 2018, 2019, a lot of that stuff just is not going to work anymore, because there's going to be AI models that can come in and take a portion of our work moving forward. So that's where we're going to go. So it's not going to be the AI channel. Don't worry. I know some of you guys were worried I was going to just abandon sync licensing altogether and only talk about AI and all these other wild stories with AI. We're not going to be doing that. But definitely AI is going to be a part of the conversation, right? It's going to be kind of a new topic in the room that we have to sort of wrap our heads around and figure out, how do we update, how do we survive, how do we sort of keep ourselves relevant in this changing landscape, okay? But the topic of this video is AI overhyped? Well, it is. I think it is obviously overhyped. But is it just the next NFT or cryptocurrency, sort of craze, right? Just the kind of overhyped thing that happened a few years ago, where everybody was saying, oh, cryptocurrency is going to completely destroy everything. It's going to reinvent everything about our finance, and and smart contracts are going to take over everything, and blockchain technology is going to totally reinvent the world. And it did disrupt a few things, but obviously it was a little bit of a flop, or a big flop. Nothing really, got disrupted too heavily. And of course, you guys remember a year or two ago, NFTs were the next thing that was supposed to completely change the music industry and change everything that we know about everything, right? And so now, of course, AI is the new topic. It's the new headline. And there are people that are sort of saying, it's just another NFT. It's just another cryptocurrency. AI is nothing but hype, and it's not going to be, the impactful thing that people are predicting it's going to be. I don't follow that opinion. I do think it's overhyped. I do think that there are people, I think our brains are just wired to do this. We see something that's potentially a threat to our income, to our way of life, and our brains are so good at picking up on potential future threats and magnifying them. Because if you think about it, in our history, any of our ancestors that didn't have that sort of oversensitive paranoia about a potential predator, like off in the bushes or something like that, they would probably get eaten, because they weren't so worried that that little rustling might have not just been the wind. It could have been basically a tiger or a snake or something that could have hurt us or whatever. So the ancestors that were super paranoid and said, no, I don't care if that is wind or what it is. I don't know. I'm staying the hell away from that, and I'm running away. That's where we came from. We came from those people that were extremely paranoid about potential threats and risks, and that's what kept them alive and what keeps us alive, right? So I think our brains are just wired to get a little bit oversensitive to this stuff. I certainly was, as I was getting into this stuff. I got very, very, heavily pulled into a kind of a fight or flight. Oh my gosh, like, what are we looking at here? Kind of a feeling, right? And now time has kind of moved on, and I've gotten out of that phase, and I feel like I'm a little bit more level-headed on what I'm looking at. Still scary, there's still uncertainty around it, but it doesn't feel like the hype that it was when I first got into it. But I don't think it's just another NFT. I don't think it's just another cryptocurrency. I don't think it's going to be just another thing that just sort of fizzles out in a couple of months. And the main reason I feel that way is because when cryptocurrencies came on board and all the blockchain technology came on board, it was really interesting. It was really exciting. People were saying that they can make a lot of money with it. That's, of course, what got a lot of the attention. But immediately, that technology wasn't useful for people like you and I, right? Like, what did cryptocurrency or blockchain technology solve for us, right? Well, you could basically store value online, unique value. You could transfer that value to each other, through these decentralized blockchain technologies. And there's a function to that, and there's a use for that. And I do feel that in the future, that is going to have a very, very important part of our lives. But what pain point did that solve for us? What part of our lives were we going, man, if I could only store value online and transfer that value to somebody else, it would change my life. Well, we already had banking, we already had wire transfers, we already had Zelle, we already had PayPal, we already had the Cash App, we already had all these abilities to have value in dollars and store that value online in a digital, online wallet or a bank and send that value to other people as well. Of course, cryptocurrency, the promise of it is that it's decentralized. It's certainly not controlled by a federal bank or a Federal Reserve or governments. So that's obviously the novelty factor of it and what's really interesting about it. And I do feel moving forward, that's going to be something you don't want to dismiss. That's certainly going to be a valuable part of our lives. But when it first came out, it was kind of like, all right, I see the hype. I see that some of these cryptocurrencies are gaining in a lot of value, so I should just buy in. And there was a craze around that, but the actual functionality of from day one was not that useful or like accessible for people like you and I. Like just the average Joe wasn't really there. Also, the same with NFTs, right? NFTs are essentially like I just sort of simplify it by thinking of them in terms of like online trading cards, right? It's a unique sort of proof that you have some original version of a piece of art, a picture, even some music, or shared ownership of a piece of art or music or something like that, right? And that's kind of cool. And I think in the future, especially as we live more and more our lives, maybe in these like digital virtual universes, that's going to be a very important technology we cannot dismiss and think it won't be useful. I think it will be. But when NFTs dropped and when we all saw like, oh my gosh, like this piece of art is selling for, $500,000 and it's a digital version of a, like a cat that some artist drew, many of us looked at that and said, I'm just going to screenshot that. Okay, I got a free screenshot of the thing you just spent $500,000 on. Yes, you have the original, right? You've got the NFT token that says that you have the actual original and probably endorsed version by the artist and all that good stuff. And you paid the artist and all that. So props to you. Congrats to you. I got the same piece of art on my computer. I can print it out. I can look at it. I can enjoy it just as much as you can. And I just saved $500,000. So immediately NFTs felt like overhype because it was like, what's the value in that? Where's the actual functionality and so obviously it was the same thing I think with cryptocurrencies. It was just this idea of, well, if I buy this NFT, which I don't fully understand, the next guy will pay double what I paid for it. So that's kind of where a lot of the NFT energy kind of went to. What's different about AI, especially let's just talk specifically about ChatGPT, is that that's something that we can open up right now. And I showed you guys in my videos this week, 2 very small, easy examples. You can use it today. It's for free. The 2 examples I had on my channel, if you didn't watch them, one is it makes sense of any legal contract you've ever had in your life or any legal contract you'll have in your future. Lawyers better be looking at this stuff because how many times have we been, received a contract and thought, I probably should get a lawyer to look at this because I don't know if I'm fully understanding this, right? You want somebody to kind of be your coach or your guide to make sense of sort of complicated legalese language. Well, ChatGPT is free right now and you can use that. That's actually functional, right? That's useful. That's accessible for us right now. That's not about buying something and hoping it's going to double in price. There's not a lot of this kind of financial, yes, there's definitely people that are thinking they're going to become billionaires and trillionaires with AI. But I'm just talking about like the average Joe, you and I, that might need some technology that can help us in our lives. Immediately, it helps you craft emails. It also helps you. One of the things that I'm already using it for is I'm not great at reading, especially with articles on new topics. Sometimes my brain, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a form of ADD. I'll read a couple of sentences and my brain just immediately tunes out. I'm much more like auditory or visual. So if you can give me a YouTube video that explains something complicated in audio or video form, I'll absorb it. I'll learn the concept. It's much easier for my brain to kind of absorb that type of information. Reading, for whatever reason, just doesn't work well for me. There's like AI summary tools now, like basically ChatGPT Chrome plugins that I have installed where if I go to a new article, especially about like an AI topic that I'm kind of like, this is kind of going over my head and I'm sort of losing my focus, it can summarize the entire article within like 1 paragraph, or even better, I'll say, make this into bullet points. Give me 5 bullet points of the key takeaways of this article. 5 seconds, and I don't have to read that entire article to get the general gist of what's happening in this space. That's functional. That's useful. That's actually something that's helping me become better educated and helping me fix and get around one of my weaknesses, right? For reading is just not one of my things that I really, have gotten into ever in my life. And this is helping me sort of, strengthen that weakness of mine. So that's why I don't think that it's absolutely overhyped and it's going to be something that just pops. It will, well, I should take that back. It is going to be overhyped, and it will be a bubble that pops. Just like the internet, if some of you guys were around then, 2001, I mean, I was only like 17, so I don't really remember all the details, but in 2001, we had the big .com crash because, the internet was becoming this massive, oh my gosh, if you've got a, internet company, we're going to throw you millions of dollars because we don't know what's going to happen, but we think everybody's going to the moon with it because all the stocks were going up. You couldn't lose, right? So way too much investment, way too many people got involved. And of course, there was a pop that happened in 2001. And usually this happens with any new form of technology. There is too much money being thrown at it. There's too much hype. There's too many new products. There's too many new people jumping into it thinking that they're going to become billionaires as a result of it. And that's necessary. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying this as like a critic of that process. I just think that that's sort of the natural progression of human beings and new technology waves that essentially hit us. So it'll get overhyped, it'll go to the moon, and then it'll pop. And of course, everybody will say, well, that's the end of it. That was a nice little phase we had, but a nice little experiment in the AI world. But obviously, that's not going to take off. People said the same thing in 2001 with the internet. Well, yes, we all knew internet was just a fad. It's not going to take off. So probably something similar will happen in this space where it'll get too big, too exciting. We'll make too much of it. It'll pop. A lot of money will get lost. A lot of people will lose out on their investments, and the energy will get drained out of it for a couple of years. And you'll just see this slow creep up as it marches on and moves forward. And really what happens is the players, the money, and the companies that were supposed to be in the industry, meaning that they're actually providing real value, they will sort of creep and march forward with it while the news is not really paying attention to it or following it as much. You've seen kind of the same thing with cryptocurrency. NFTs maybe are in that space now where they've popped. And you'll see this kind of slow, steady crawl as it moves forward. And there's going to be just a couple of players and a couple of instances of it that we'll see in the long run actually win out. So that's where I see, what's going to be happening with AI moving forward. But, as I've been sort of downloading and playing with a lot of AI plugins and tools, especially music-based ones, I would say that like right now, we're probably like out of a 2 or a 3 out of 10 in terms of like, a lot of these AI tools, they'll have a lot of hype and a lot of promise, and they'll say, you can do this, you can do that, and you download it and you use it and you go, yeah, you're technically doing what you promised you could do, but this is not really useful. Like, I don't want to use your app. It doesn't make my life easier. It actually makes it harder. It sometimes creates even more work. Like, you might be doing something for my music or helping me create new music, but now I have to transform it in a way to make it actually useful for myself. So we're kind of in this sort of experimental stage where a lot of companies are jumping into this space, and not all of them are going to be creating actually useful apps and plugins. So what I want to do, and what I'm having some of our Sync Academy pros and pro feedback pros help me out with, is really come on board with what tools are coming online, and we're going to try to help weed out the ones that are just mostly hype and kind of just using the word AI as a buzzword in their marketing, as opposed to the ones that are actually creating some value for us and actually helping unload some of the work that we don't want to do, some of the busy work that we don't necessarily like to do, or help us in some meaningful, useful way create high quality licensable music, right? That's what we want to kind of do. So to, get our heads around some of these tools that are actually going to be useful and put together some tutorials for how we can actually start to use it. So I'm really curious and excited to start doing that. And I know that those are the kind of conversations we're having right now in Sync Academy with all the members and with our pros to basically create a lot of cool, interesting tutorials. So I'm going to get to your guys' chats. I really want to ask what you guys are thinking about all this, where you're at in terms of, kind of following me in the last month, essentially, as I've been putting these videos together. But I do have to do one quick shameful plug before we get into that. Sync Up is still going on, even though I've been talking a lot about AI. Sync Up is obviously just around the corner. I know we haven't talked about it lately, but it is coming up on June 3rd and 4th. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to be capping the in-person tickets. I'd made that decision a few months ago, but we are now getting down to the wire, so we actually only have 6 tickets left, in-person tickets, I should say, okay? So if you've been interested in joining us, I would not wait longer than today, because I don't know if these 6 tickets will be taken today, and I'm definitely putting a final deadline. Like, you can't wait till the last minute to buy a ticket. The deadline actually to buy an in-person ticket will be this coming 1 week from today, Friday, May 12th, okay? Basically by the end of the day. I don't know if these six tickets will last and be here until then. So you do need to get your ticket before then. If we don't sell the 6 tickets, that's fine. We just won't have the last 6, sort of seats taken. But I'm definitely going to be stopping in-person ticket sales because, first of all, for you to get your discounted hotel room with us, which, by the way, I'll let you know where our hotel is. It's a hotel right next to the LAX airport in Los Angeles, California. I will let you know where your hotel room is, but you do need to get your hotel room booked by that Friday, May 12th, if you want to get the discounted rate. If you don't get your ticket or you get your room after that, I can't guarantee you what rate you're going to get. But up until this coming Friday, I can guarantee you a really nice discounted rate you can get if you need to get a hotel room and stay with us. So it is a Saturday and Sunday, basically 9 to 5, essentially both days. This is going to be the speakers we have at the event. We got Mike from Reverse Play, Perry from Epic Music, Trevor from Get It Done, Troy from Alloy Tracks, AJ from Future Hits, and Carlos Rios from Universal Music. And he's actually the director of New Business and Sync. So he's going to be a pretty interesting guy that we're going to pick our brains on. Now, the promise and the power of Sync Up is the fact that you guys will get a guarantee, definitely if you get an in-person ticket, a guarantee that whatever music you want to submit to one of these gentlemen at these companies, not Carlos because he's not in charge of obviously accepting music at Universal, but any of these other 5 gentlemen, they will guarantee listen to your music. Now, how do I know that? I've contracted them to do just that. So I am definitely paying them to be a part of this event and come share their expertise and come be there. So you can actually look at them in the eye, you can shake their hand, they're going to be very approachable, and they're guaranteed going to be listening. Whoops. Right there. They're going to be listening to your music at the event. So that's what's going to be really awesome here. I know many of us have submitted our music to libraries. We don't hear back. We don't know if they even listened to it. Is it because our music is not great that they didn't get back to us? Or are they just so busy they didn't hear it? That's kind of one of the pain points I want to solve with Sync Up is I want to first break down the barrier so that you're in the same room with these people and you understand they're just like you and I. They're regular people that are just trying to run their own business in a way that works for them, that makes themselves profitable and creates value for us as well. And of course, they're TV and film licensing partners. But more importantly, I want to solve that problem, at least in this one particular situation where you don't have to worry if the library even listened to your music. If you participate with us in Sync Up, you can definitely guarantee that they will. Okay. I got the link actually. I don't know if I put it actually below, but if you could just go to my website, syncmymusic.com, you'll see a link to go check this out so you can check out what we got going on with our schedule and the guest speakers and all that stuff. So again, in-person tickets are $299. That's going to be gone once those 6 tickets are gone. If you could not join us in person, you can still get a virtual ticket. Right now it's basically $99 for the basic one, where essentially you can stream the entire event from home. But you have to upgrade your virtual ticket to the Virtual Plus option, which is $49 more. And that will give you a link to submit your music to any one of these library CEOs that you would wish to, okay? So you can also participate fully from home, watch everything, and I'll record everything so you can watch it all later if you can't watch us with us live on June 3rd and 4th. But more importantly, if you want to submit your music to these library CEOs and have a guarantee that they're going to listen to it, and if they like it, they can directly reach out to you. You're going to include your email address. Nothing's going through me or anything like that. I've given them full control and freedom to say, if you like something you hear, their email address is going to go along with their submission, and you can definitely just reach out to them directly and partner with them. So that's a cool thing going on with Sync Up. So I'm really excited to see that come together. It's my first live event, and I'm kind of a little bit nervous, of course, but I'm also really excited because I know I've got good people showing up, and from all of you guys that have already gotten your in-person tickets or virtual tickets, I've really appreciated you guys reaching out and letting me know about your excitement and that you've got some really cool things that you want to get out of the event. And I've really been custom tailoring the entire event to really make sure that you guys are being served with it. Again, service mindset, it's what I teach you guys. It's what I follow myself. This is not about me. Obviously, I do want to meet you guys, and I really want to, shake your hand, take pictures with you, and have a good time, and really kind of have a cool, I don't know, almost like a party hangout atmosphere. That's really what I'm trying to get out of this event. But I really want to make sure that when you guys participate in this event, whether it's virtually or in person, you really come away from it going, wow, that was a unique, one-of-a-kind event. And I got a lot of education out of it. I learned a lot about the business. I learned a lot about AI. We're definitely going to talk about some of these things that are happening with production music libraries. So that's sort of fitting into this stuff that I've been talking about on my channel. But also you make meaningful personal connections with each other. You guys can definitely create some amazing friendships in the room. What I'm going to do as well for everybody in the room is I'm going to be putting together a really cool exercise that will allow you guys to meet many different people in the room without having to have a lot of high social skills. Okay, so I know some of us are a little bit more shy, others of us are more comfortable. Believe it or not, you might think that I'm like this Mr. Social Butterfly. I'm not, guys. I really am more comfortable being the quiet one, the listener. I'm not the one that likes a lot of attention. I don't want an entire room looking at me. I get very uncomfortable. So that's obviously where my anxiety is coming from a bit from this event, but I'll do it. I'll do all right. We'll figure out how we'll get through that. But I want you guys to know that if you're in the room and you're a little bit, unsure about how you're going to, get along and meet people, and it's kind of that weird, like, well, I'm here to network, but I don't know, who should I go talk to? And this is kind of awkward. Don't worry about it. I actually have a whole exercise set up where I essentially take that burden off your shoulders. I will basically tell you guys who to go talk to. I'll sort of say you and you, or you three. I'm going to be putting you guys in groups that are pre-planned, so you don't have to even worry about who do I go talk to. It'll all be taken care of. And not only that, I will give you guys topics that you will know what you need to be talking about as you meet each other. So I'm actually going to sort of pre-load this kind of networking session with pre-arranged topics that you've already written down, thought about a little bit. So you'll actually have some preparation on what you're going to talk about with the other people in the room. So for any of you guys that are worried about the social anxiety of it, don't worry. It's going to be nice and easy, very, very, very fun and comfortable. And by the end of literally like the first or second hour in the room, my goal is it's going to feel like kind of like a family reunion, that we're going to feel so comfortable. It's going to be so warm, that kind of, stiff, awkward, ice in the room, which it's going to be there. Let's just be honest. We haven't met each other yet. It's just going to be there. That will be melted off by the first couple of hours. And so by the end of literally, a couple of hours in, I think it's going to be a really amazing, friendly, warm room to be in. So I'm really excited for it. Turning this kind of virtual business that I've created into an in-person one is going to be a wild mind bender. And I'm just really excited to see where it's going to take us. So that's what I got for Sync Up. You guys can go check it out at syncmymusic.com/syncup, or just go to syncmymusic.com and you can get a link there. So with that out of the way, let me take a sip of my drink here. That got all messy and spilled, and read some of your comments, see where you guys are at. All right, Sam, you're saying it's plagiarism, plain and simple. The lawyers will eat it. I think you're talking about the AI generative models. There's definitely a legal risk to what AI generative models are going to be able to do. And I actually got a really cool video coming up on my channel this coming Wednesday. Make sure you check out that one, because you're partially onto it, but not all of it. It's not all going to be a legal risk, but there's definitely, I think there's 2 significant legal risks that might be like fatal flaws that actually might completely kill AI generative music. Maybe not. Maybe there's going to be solutions to it. But check out my video on Wednesday. I think that'll be helpful for us to wrap our heads around, because I'm curious what you guys think about that as well. Mark, what's up, bud? Glad you're covering this stuff. I think our little industry is a very small ripple effect of AI. Lots of other important impacts in the world at large, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're obviously just kind of focusing on our... sorry, I got something in my throat. We're focusing on how AI is going to affect our little, world in the production music library world. But of course, all of you guys, whatever your day jobs are, or your other gigs, you're also having to fight with that of like, how do you, sort of adapt your point of view or your work with this new technology that's going to be extremely disruptive. So I totally understand, like, that's where the anxiety for all of us is coming from. It's not just about generating music. Obviously, I have to kind of zero in and focus on just the music part of this, because that's kind of what you guys are tuning into this channel for, right? So I do have some bigger, I'll share some of them. I have some kind of larger, I think, like philosophical/spiritual points of view on what AI is and what it's going to be doing for us, not to us, but for us. And I'll share some of those. Some of you guys will be interested. Others of you will say, Jesse's kind of, doing his stoner talk again. I'm going to tune out of that. And I totally get that. But I do think some of the stuff that as I get into this topic, I really want to share deeper thoughts that I have about it. And I think for whatever it's worth, it might be helpful, it might not, but I do want to share those, and I will. All right, Royalty Free Music Collective. I just listened to a 2013 Paul McCartney song called New that someone has turned into a Beatles song using AI technology to make them sound much younger and to add George and John's voices. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that one. I wonder if that sounds pretty cool. At a sales expo for my day job, and was approached by a guy who worked as a copywriter, gave me his card and said he writes blogs and articles for businesses. And I thought, man, ChatGPT just replaced you. Yes and no. There's definitely some parts, if you were just writing, like if you were, let's say if you're a journalist right now that basically just takes data from some database and just summarizes it and puts it on a blog and a website. Yeah, you can be replaced very quickly right now with ChatGPT, but If you've got a unique point of view, you've got a unique writing style, you've got maybe some humor, right? You've got some higher level forms of your art, right? Of your writing that is not necessarily able to be replicated by ChatGPT right now. I think you still got a place because, one thing I keep noticing, I keep going back to this example, and it's definitely going to be, I think, something that we think about as music creators. The Joe Rogan and Sam Altman AI conversation. I referenced it in a couple of videos already, but actually, I'm going to play it right now. I don't think I'll get taken down for this. Hopefully not. Let's find out. I actually have it up right now. You guys take a listen to this real quick. And I just want to show you my thoughts as I was hearing it. So this is a completely AI-generated conversation between Joe Rogan and Sam Altman. Sam Altman's the CEO of OpenAI. So these people didn't say these words. They weren't in the same room talking like this. But this is what can be done with AI technology. So let's just listen to it for a little bit.
So let's dive right in. Your company just released a new tool called ChatGPT. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what it does?
Sure. So ChatGPT is an AI language model that's been trained on a massive amount of text data. What this means is that it's able to generate text that's almost indistinguishable from text written by like a human. It does this by using a process called deep learning, where it's been trained on a massive data set of text, and it's able to use that training to generate new text that's coherent and grammatically correct. And the cool thing is that the more data it's trained on, the more accurate and diverse its responses can be.
That's insane. So let's say I ask ChatGPT a question right now. It's going to use that deep learning process to generate an answer on the spot?
Exactly. And what's even more impressive is that it can also generate answers in a conversational style, which is why it's able to generate a podcast like this. It's able to keep.
Okay, so that's just a little sample of it. If you guys want to check it out, if you just type in Joe Rogan, AI, Sam Altman, you'll find it if you want to listen to the whole thing. So here's what I find interesting about that. Amazing, first of all, like even adding the ums and the pauses and the inflections in their voices and the specific inflections of each one of those gentlemen. I'm not super familiar with Sam Altman. I've only watched a couple of his interviews, but that feels just about what he would say, how he would say it, how he would use his ums, his pauses. Joe Rogan, I've listened to a lot more on, and that definitely is kind of like how he talks and how he's communicating his thoughts, right? So novelty factor, 10. Sort of jaw drop on the floor factor, 10. But I was actually listening to that conversation for about 5 or 10 minutes like a few weeks ago, and I really wanted to listen to the whole thing because I was like, this is just fascinating. I'm really interested in how these two AI models essentially are going to be talking to each other. But about 10 minutes in, I kind of got bored with it. And I realized, and I was like, why am I bored with this? This is like, amazing technology, and this is like something I didn't know we could even do. And wow, like, why am I just not interested in this? For me, I'm curious what you guys think. For me, I realized that what I was getting was the cheap imitation of the real thing, right? So I might be actually interested in what Joe Rogan really thinks about AI. I might be interested in actually what Sam Altman thinks about AI. Now, these models and this conversation we were just hearing might approximate what they actually feel, what they think, what their, either hesitations are, their concerns, all that kind of stuff, or their excitement. It might actually approximate it fairly accurately, but it's not directly coming from them. That was actually, I think, the thing that for me was like this light bulb going off. And I was like, I just personally, an audience of one, a market of one, I really care about the direct connection between these human beings and what their thoughts are, their original, actual, authentic thoughts, not what an AI model is trying to replicate and get accurate and sort of mimic what they're doing. I really am more interested in exactly what these two human beings are thinking and what they would be doing. So I think for some instances and circumstances, you would probably use this technology for amazing things where it's not so valuable that you're getting the direct, authentic thoughts of certain human beings, right? And that's where we were going back before about writers, right? So if you're a writer and people care about what you actually think, they don't want you to use ChatGPT, right? Maybe you could use it to summarize things or edit some of your stuff. But if they find out that a lot of your articles now are just all AI generated, I feel that human connection gets severed and people feel like they're not directly getting what they wanted. They wanted the direct connection. They wanted the authentic, unfiltered, uncensored, just this is what I really think. That's what's actually valuable in this space. So connect that to music. I actually saw it was Rick Beato had a video. They posted, somebody in Sync Academy posted it where he was making a prediction that Of course, the AI voices that are coming on board are disrupting everything, and a lot of the labels are saying, no, take it all off. We don't want anything to do with that. And you got Grimes, one of the artists out there. I made a video on that. She's saying, go for it. Let's split it 50-50. And Rick had made the prediction that he thought that at some point the labels will just create AI artists. They'll say, well, we don't need to pay artists anymore. People are going to want AI generated music probably more so than the original artists. So why don't we just get out of this business of even signing artists and developing artists? Let's just generate AI content, like AI artists, AI everything, right? And nobody will really care. Most of the consumers won't even know the difference. They'll just be into whatever the labels essentially produce, out of this kind of like AI technology. And I don't see that necessarily. I can see that happening to a limited extent. Like it's going to be kind of, again, like this conversation we just heard with Joe Rogan and Sam Altman. Novelty factor there, gimmicky factor there, right? Really, it's going to take the world by storm. It's going to be amazing. But will people stick around for it? Right? Will you create lifelong fans, like people have been lifelong fans of the Beatles or a modern artist like Drake? I don't know. I don't see that happening, right? I think in some instances, we will definitely use AI generated music and AI generated art, and it will be amazing in some instances. But is it going to completely replace our need to connect with each other? Like, think about it right now. We have social media networks that are completely dominating our lives, right? And sorry guys, I'm addicted to it. You're addicted to it. Let's just be honest. We're all addicts, okay? In whatever form it is, you can say, well, I don't do Instagram. I don't do Facebook. Okay, whatever it is you do, and for me, it's YouTube. They've got us. All right. There is definitely a part of our lives that have been more and more sort of stepped upon and intruded by the social media, world, this ecosystem that we're kind of all tied into right now. And in some ways, it's amazing because it allows me to share all my knowledge here on YouTube. It allows all of us to kind of get better educated and talk to really interesting people or learn from interesting people we never would have ever met or seen in history. So it's not bad. I think it's a really good thing. But are we feeling that social media is a replacement for real human connection? Like, are we all going, you know what? I've got 500 friends on Facebook or on Instagram, so I feel like I've got a rich social life. Is that what we're feeling? No, we all feel that it was a cheap substitute for the real thing. And I think now some of us are starting to realize, hey, I got to kind of pull back a little bit from this social media stuff. And I really need to start investing more in real life relationships and hanging out with buddies and actually getting out of my, home, especially after COVID. We're all definitely realizing, wow, we really isolated ourselves a bit. So I can feel that kind of trend moving in that direction. So and that's really, if it comes down to, if you have to summarize all of that, it's just human connection, right? COVID severed our human connection in a massive way. Social media has severed our human connection in a massive way. Ironically, even though these social media networks can help us connect with each other, we don't feel the genuine, authentic human-to-human connection that we really are craving and needing. I don't see how AI just suddenly reinvents all of that. I still feel that there's going to be a need to connect person to person, consciousness to consciousness, right? Now, will AI be conscious and we'll start connecting with that consciousness? We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. It's definitely a concern. It's a valid one, but we don't have that kind of time today. So anyways, that's my little rant on that. And I think that's kind of where my head is going right now, at least in the middle of 2023. Ask me next week, right? I'll be in a completely different space probably. Let's see, the Mix Club. I'm thinking about it, but my local bank just closed. No kidding. Okay, I don't know what we were talking about there. So Victoria was talking about, yeah, but for Bitcoin, there was already banking, and then we already had human-made music, arts book. Why anyone would use AI stuff despite human-made just because they're cheaper? Yes, that's a great point there. Yeah, I think that's exactly why. Were people saying, I need more music. I don't know. There's definitely a lot of music out there, and I think you're right. Like in terms of some of the music that doesn't necessarily need to have a human connection to it, AI generated music will certainly come in and serve that space, which is, that's the part that's going to impact us guys. So that's the part that I'm going to wrap my head around. And right now I'm really kind of in the middle of figuring out and trying to understand the royalty-free and stock licensing marketplace, and is that something we should be sending our music to anymore? The Pond 5 situation was really interesting. I actually got a response from them. I asked them to come on my channel and talk to me, and I got a response, and they said, sure, we'll come on. So I've sent them the questions. I want to make sure I'm fair with them. I'll say I'm going to send you the questions beforehand, so you know what I'll ask you. I'm not going to just, I don't want to do a gotcha job or hit job or something like that. I really just want it to be a productive conversation, find out where you guys are at, let us know kind of what you're thinking about this conversation and what's going on in this world. So I'll let you know if they sort of come back and we can get that conversation. But that's certainly the big thing that I'm kind of thinking about now with these, like, especially the Pond 5 situation. Like, if we submit our music to these companies, are we just training our replacement, and are we training our cheaper replacement forever? That's one of these tough questions that I want to start to wrap my head around and just be a little bit more, skeptical about, and not be so thinking like, oh, well, it's new money for our music, so we should just always be looking for new money. Sometimes, sometimes a check is nice, but let's look about like the long-term picture. Is this something that we really want to be taking the paycheck for if it in the long run means that we don't even have a chance with, royalty-free and stock music? Now, of course, I don't have music in royalty-free or stock music sites. It's not a path that I went on in my career. So it's not something that's going to immediately impact me. But I know a lot of you guys do. And a lot of you guys that are following me do have music in these stock and royalty-free sites. So it's something we should start to, I think, talk about for sure. Boost the Kid. Jesse, what's your opinion on music AI software currently do you feel that's most useful to us? I still haven't found one that's super useful yet. Yeah, Boosta, what I'm seeing right now is essentially most of it is going to be in mixing or mastering AI-aided software. That seems to be something that could be useful. And then the other one would be in terms of some of the ChatGPT functionality that I kind of gave you guys here on my channel. There's going to be some more metadata. There's definitely a couple of applications out there that can automatically add metadata to your music, and libraries are going to certainly be using that. But in terms of for music producers, it's mostly that. It's a mixing and mastering, automatically creating stems. There's definitely a couple of companies out there. We're going to talk about those that you can just basically upload your main mix and it'll automatically create stems for you. That's awesome, because how many of us love creating stems, right, for music libraries? So I think those are kind of the main applications of it right now. But rest assured, that's what we're doing right now. That's what I have my Sync Academy tutorial creators, the pros that we have in the platform, looking at and making tutorials for. I'm definitely keeping my finger on that, looking into that. So that's essentially mostly what I'm seeing. And I agree with you. There's a lot of quote unquote AI music apps that are being pushed out there, and you go play with them and you're like, this isn't ready. This isn't ready for prime time. I can see in the future with a lot of improvements, this could be really cool. Like one of the ones I saw, I think it was one of the Google projects where you can essentially sing into the microphone and it immediately transforms your vocal line into a different instrument. So that to me, if it sounds great, like how many times do we want to put like live horns or live strings on our track? And maybe we're not great at sort of a MIDI keyboard performing them, but we could sing it, we could hum it, right? Imagine if you had to plug it in your DAW, something like that. Again, but these are all imagine ifs, okay? So they're not here yet, they're not functional yet, they're not something that's going to be immediately useful. But I do want to be one of the first ones that gets my hands on that technology and start to point you guys in that direction, because that could certainly help add to our tool belt, essentially. Brad Majors is saying, I think AI is a failed attempt. Unless we are not able to tell AI made it, then it'll be just another in thing and will fizzle out over time. And yeah, I mean, nobody really knows the future, so we're all going to see where this goes if it was just a big hype. Is there a voice AI generator that allows us to create more unique original voice compared to copying someone else? I know that it's called Synthesizer V, where you can actually literally type in lyrics, you can type in a melody, and then actually you have to pay for some of the premium voices, but it does come with a couple of free voices. And how those voices are generated, I don't know if they were created by a human being that came in and sang, and it's sort of like mimicking that person. But I would imagine that if it doesn't exist, now, that yeah, it'll be able to maybe pull from a couple of different voices and synthesize something brand new that's original. So I do think something like that could certainly be done if it's not already done right now. I'm not familiar. I don't know of one particular one. So yeah, and Brad makes an interesting point. People want to know the artists and what they're about. I agree with that. I do think, if you guys just think about your own bands and artists that you guys are lifelong fans are, not maybe just casual, like, I listen to it once in a while, but the bands and artists that you've gone to see live, that you've purchased their albums, that you've got their merch, you've got their t-shirts. Do you just not care that they're human beings? And did you never watch any of their interviews or kind of get their bios, or maybe watch behind the scenes of how they make their music or what it's like to be on tour with them? Of course not. Like once we get into music, it's immediately like you want to pull back the curtain. All right, well, who's the human being that's making this amazing art? Like I really want to know their backstory. What are they? Are they a crazy person? Are they a recluse? Are they just wildly what is it called? I'm blanking on the word, but what is their personality basically? What is the story behind this band or behind this artist? So if you got an AI generated artist, which will definitely come out, you know what everybody's going to be wondering: who created this? That'll be the first question. They'll be like, wow, that's cool. Think about the Gorillaz, right? You guys know the band band Gorillaz, which was basically all of those sort of characters that one artist created. I actually don't even know his name. Some of you guys probably know his name, but lots of hit songs, lots of amazing stuff. And every music video, it's like, it's got these, I think they were literally just all gorillas, playing the instrument. So it's like a virtual band that doesn't exist. And so, of course, does everybody go like, cool, I just like the gorillas. I'm not interested in the person that created this art, created these characters, created this music. No, we all want to go behind the scenes and find out who the person is. Now, it's ironic. I don't know who it is. I just know the name gorillas. So that's what's kind of cool about, I think, what's going to happen with this space is we're going to actually value our artist created music, I think, even more. And we're going to really want to know more about artists and what they're doing. And it's also going to force artists that want to stay relevant to be more accessible. Like, create a video every single time you release a track. Here's what this song's about. Here's how I record it. Here's the backstory of the lyrics. Here's a backstory of me and what led to me creating this music. That's the kind of stuff that people really want to learn about. So artists are going to have to become more exposed, more vulnerable, maybe sing about topics that are really challenging, things that they never thought they would want to share or sing about, and do something that just makes you go, wow, like this person really went through something and I want to get to know them a little bit better. So increasing the sort of human social aspect of music and the art form of music, I think, is going to be the play moving forward for all of us, including us. Paul Gavin, you're saying this is why I'm confident great live events won't be harmed by AI. Yeah, I don't think live events, I think live events will get just more amazing. Like, you're just going to see crazy augmented reality, virtual reality, sort of aspects to live music that we've never seen before. And it'll take you on a psychedelic journey for it. So yeah, it's just going to get better for the live performance. Absolutely. And people will want to be around each other in these really cool, I mean, there's nothing like you guys have been to concerts, I know, but concerts are partially about music, but I think it's more about this kind of almost ancient need for us to kind of gather and almost have this ritual, like a ritual around music. I don't know. There's something in our DNA that needs that. And so you can feel it when you're in the room and there's music and it's just, there's something in that room that you cannot get anywhere else. And it feels like it's satisfying a deep hunger or a deep thirst that you can't get anywhere else. So there's something in us that needs to be in these sort of ritualistic environments, listening to loud music and the bright lights and the dark room and all that kind of cool stuff. There's something about it, probably from the ancient days of us, dancing around a fire and, banging on our drums and our sheepskins and all that kind of stuff. There's just something about that is baked into the cake. I don't see it really leaving us anytime soon. And Brad's saying that basically, AI items will be made worth less money and human items will be worth more. I can see that for sure happening as well. We'll just value human created art much more. Dave Rux, does AI use virtual instruments? Because that could be its bottleneck for some instruments and you will still need a performer. There's all different types of AI models. Some of them are using like pre-made loops to basically just stretch and stack and repitch things and just create kind of like alterations on pre-made music. And some of the stuff you saw like in the Google Music LM project, Google language model, or music language model rather, Music LM project, is different. There's different ways that essentially it is taking text pairs and pieces of music, tying them and essentially running all of that through like a neural network to, I'm definitely not the expert on it, so don't take this as an explanation on it. But there's all these different ways essentially that's running it through this process to sort of get to an output and realize how different was that output from what the input was, and then start making adjustments to basically get better and better and better and better. And basically it comes down to how much data you can feed into these models and how much you can train it before it starts to realize it's getting things more on track for what you really wanted. But then there's also the spectrogram where essentially some of these models are creating like a visual representation of music and then using that visual representation to probably feed, either MIDI or virtual instruments or whatever to recreate some music. So there's all different types of ways that these models are creating the music, and I'm going to certainly get better educated on how they're doing it, especially a lot of the new tutorials I want to make. Like, that's going to be a really important part of them. Is like, we got to know what we're up against and what these models can do, what they're capable of, and it'll help us understand where they're going to go in the future. So Charismatic, I've always wanted to put lyrics over my tracks, but don't really have the voice to do so. Me too, man. Like, that's definitely where I'm at with this, because as soon as you give me an app where I can sing an idea on top of my track and it immediately pitch corrects me, maybe adds a little bit of some quality to my voice that I wish I had, You better believe I'm buying it. I don't care how much it costs. I am buying it because I've always wanted to throw out a lot of my own original music to the world. But every time I do, and I record on it and I get my vocals on it, I go, I'm honest. Like my vocals aren't there yet. And there's some things with my voice that I don't like and I don't want to put it out there. So is it cheating that I'd be using an AI app? I don't care if you call it that. I'm going to use it because I think there's some really cool uses like that where I do feel like a lot of my lyrics and melodic ideas could be really enjoyable by a lot of people, but my voice quality isn't, right? The pitchiness of my voice where I have to pitch correct it so much, I just wasn't blessed with that particular gift. So that's one of those things where I would certainly use AI to augment, myself. All right. Songwriters are music synced, man. Songwriters are not performers and doing concerts. Let's stay focused. Yeah, I mean, for sure, that's a good point. We're not going to be necessarily there, but it is going to be more important though for us, even as production music library composers, to have more of a human presence in our music and in our social media and stuff. So we're going to talk about that. But yeah, it's obviously a different realm, the live performance thing. But don't discount the fact that you can just think of yourself as this behind the scenes person that doesn't have a personality or any sort of a human interaction in this industry. I mean, this is the whole problem, I think, with a lot of these royalty-free and stocked sites. Do you have a personal relationship with them? Do they really care about you as an individual? Do they look for your social media? Are they interested in your career goals or anything like that? A lot of them are just these large, massive corporations. This isn't a knock against them. This is just their business model. And they're just in the business of gathering as much music from as many composers as they possibly can, right? So when something like AI comes around where they can basically cut their costs big time, that human relationship that would have maybe been a little bit of a barrier, or they would have cut you in on some of these conversations before things happened, it's not there. And that's what you guys saw with the Pawn 5 thing. That's unfortunately what happened with the Pawn 5 thing. Now, if it's, I guess I shouldn't say it's unfortunate. Maybe it won't turn out to be a horrible thing. It's too early to tell. But I think for those of you that felt really sort of dismayed by that or betrayed by the Pawn 5 thing, it's like, that's kind of what comes with the territory of these larger corporations that are not giving you face-to-face interactions and talking with you on the phone and emailing you directly. Again, how you remain relevant moving forward is going to be human direct relationships. So everything I've been teaching you guys in terms of directly submitting the music libraries, getting these personal relationships established so that you can talk to them and email them, that's actually more relevant than ever. Some of my advice might be outdated now and I have to rethink that, but that piece of advice actually held up the strongest, I think, of anything. It's your human relationships that's actually going to be your best friend as this whole revolution basically starts to take form and shape, right? Okay. Yeah, like a mini documentary. I think that'd be kind of cool with the AI stuff for artists. They definitely need to do that. So, okay, so that's what I got for you guys today. I'm going to get back to some videos and some other things I was going to make. So I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. This next week, basically on Monday, I'm going to give you guys 2 solid predictions for where I feel AI music is going to interrupt and disrupt a big chunk of our licensing business. I think at first it's going to start in the royalty-free stock sites, and then it is going to creep into our world in TV, film, sync licensing with production music libraries, okay? It's not all bad news, but it is going to mean that we have to adjust, we have to adapt, and we have to start thinking about this stuff now. I'm very grateful that even though I felt like the fear and the hype of AI, certainly, I got carried away with it. But I'm really glad that I did go down the rabbit hole, because I think now that I have sort of an idea of where things are, where things potentially could go, it's going to help me create probably the best content for you guys moving forward by the end of this year, because as this is still under the surface, the AI world of generating music is still not quite there for prime time. I think we're quite a ways away, probably at least a year or two before we see some of the models that are going to be, wow, really like amazing. This would be a smart time for us to change and adapt and adjust our approach to this, because I see for those of us that can do that, can actually step up our production level and create more human type production music. I do see them amazing. Like we were just talking about that before, like the value of human created music will actually increase alongside of a lot of producers who maybe jumped into sync licensing, weren't really thriving, weren't doing that great, maybe weren't creating music that was that licensable. They might get washed out pretty quickly, but for the rest of those of you that can stick with it and still keep that high quality music, I think you're going to see some amazing opportunities in the industry moving forward. And with less people in it, you might actually have less competition for those opportunities. So it's not all bad, but it is going to be challenging, and it's definitely going to require all of us to kind of get more curious and open about these things, start using new tools and adjusting our approach. So this coming Monday, you definitely don't want to miss out on that video. And then on Wednesday, I'll definitely upload the video that shows you guys how there might be a fatal flaw in the entire AI generative music industry, and why it might be the Achilles heel that just destroys it and prevents it from getting off the ground. I don't know. I think it's important enough to basically start thinking about it now, so we can kind of wrap our heads around, is this something that we should be thinking about, and can it be solved? Can it not be solved? I think it's just something that will be helpful for us to kind of be thinking about. So this coming week, some really cool stuff is coming your way. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday.